The woman looked at my wife sitting in her wheelchair and said, "You should stay home. You're blocking everyone." My wife started crying right there in the cereal aisle. That woman had no idea who I was, or what I used to do when someone hurt the person I loved most. My name's Marcus Mitchell. I spent 12 years as a Navy SEAL fighting enemies halfway across the world. I thought I'd seen cruelty, thought I understood what real evil looked like. Turns out you don't need a battlefield for that. Sometimes it's standing right in front of you at the grocery store wearing pearls and holding a designer purse. My wife Sarah is the strongest person I know. Before the accident, she was a pediatric nurse, always putting others before herself. Then one night, 2 years ago, a broken railing on our apartment stairs gave out beneath her. I was deployed in Afghanistan when I got the call. She spent months in the hospital, 2 surgeries, endless therapy sessions. The doctors said she'd never walk again. But Sarah, she smiled and said, "Guess I'll never have to worry about parking again." That was her way, humor in pain. She never asked why me. She just adapted. I thought I'd made peace with everything. Until that day in the store. It was supposed to be a normal Saturday. Sarah wanted to shop by herself. "Let me do it," she said. "I've got this." I watched her from the produce section, carefully maneuvering her wheelchair through the narrow aisles. She was reaching for a box of cereal top shelf just out of reach. I saw her stretch her arm, her fingertips barely brushing the corner. And then I heard that voice. "Excuse me, but you can't block the aisle like that." I turned. A woman stood behind her, mid-50s, perfectly styled blonde hair, manicured nails, expensive perfume that could choke a horse. The kind of woman who thinks the world owes her a thank you just for existing. Sarah turned around, still polite. "I'm sorry, I'll just be another moment." But that wasn't good enough. "Well, you're taking forever," the woman snapped. "Normal people need to shop too." Normal people. That phrase hit me like a punch. My fists clenched automatically. But Sarah, she stayed calm. "I understand you're in a hurry," she said. "I'll just grab this and move." The woman sighed, dramatic, rolling her eyes. "Maybe you should shop online. It would be easier for everyone." Her name tag caught my eye. Patricia Morrison, HOA board member. Of course, I'd dealt with her kind before. Tiny bit of authority, huge ego. Sarah's cheeks turned red. Her hands trembled slightly on her wheels. And that broke me because she wasn't the trembling type. This woman, my wife, had faced months of pain with her head held high, and this smug stranger had just managed to make her feel small. Sarah whispered, "I'll move." That's when I dropped the oranges I was holding and walked over. "Is there a problem here?" I asked, calm but low, the kind of tone that made people instinctively back away. Patricia's eyes flicked up at me, 6'3", broad shoulders, quiet stare. She tried to recover. "No problem at all," she said quickly. "I was just explaining that the aisles are narrow for wheelchairs." "My wife," I said, putting weight on the word. "And she has every right to shop here." "Well, of course she does," Patricia replied, pretending to smile. "I was just suggesting online shopping might be more convenient for someone in her condition." Sarah grabbed my arm gently. "Marcus, please let's go. I don't want trouble." But something inside me snapped. Trouble had already found us. "Some people," I said, still staring at Patricia, "just need a reminder about basic human decency." Her face tightened. "Excuse me, I was being perfectly reasonable." I took a step closer. "You think humiliating someone in public is reasonable?" Her voice rose. "Do you know who I am? I'm on the HOA board of Greenfield Heights." I almost laughed. "Congratulations. You bully people at grocery stores in your free time." Gasps from bystanders. Patricia's jaw tightened. "You're being aggressive. I'll call the police." "Please do," I said, pulling out my phone. "They'll love to see the video of an HOA board member harassing a disabled woman." Her eyes widened. "You can't record me. That's harassment." "No," I said. "What you did to my wife was harassment. This is documentation." She lunged for my phone, but I raised it above her head. The crowd started forming. Cameras out. Whispers. Patricia froze, realizing she'd lost control. An older woman nearby spoke up, voice shaking with anger. "I saw everything. You were cruel to her." I turned to the crowd. My wife worked 60-hour weeks saving sick kids. She fell because a landlord ignored a broken railing. She's been in that chair for 2 years and not once has she asked for pity. But this woman, I pointed at Patricia, this woman thought she could shame her for existing. Patricia's face turned pale, but she still muttered, "That doesn't give her the right to block the aisle." The right to what? I snapped. To buy groceries, to live her life. Sarah made a soft sound, a mix of pain and embarrassment. That sound. It hit me harder than any bullet ever could. I stepped closer. "You want to talk about simple tasks? Patricia, try reaching anything from a wheelchair. Try facing a world that wasn't built for you. Try dealing with people like you every single day." Her voice shook. "You're threatening me." I laughed, a hollow, dangerous sound. "Lady, you don't know what threatening looks like, but you're about to find out what consequences look like." The crowd murmured. Phones were up everywhere. Patricia's mask cracked. "You people are unbelievable," she spat. Sarah's voice cut through the tension, steady now, clear. "You people? What exactly do you mean by that?" "I mean people who expect everyone to accommodate them," Patricia said. Sarah's hands tightened on her wheels. "You think I want to be accommodated? You think I asked for this life?" For a moment, silence. Then I said quietly, "You should be ashamed." Patricia's lips trembled, but she still whispered, "You don't understand. My husband, he's been sick. He's in a wheelchair too. He hates it. I just snapped. I... Something shifted. Sarah looked up at her eyes, soft but firm. "Then you, of all people, should know better." The tension bled from the air. I watched Patricia's shoulders drop, guilt flooding her face. She started crying. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I really am." Sarah rolled closer. "Don't apologize to me. Go home and treat your husband the way you wish people treated you today." That hit Patricia like a brick. She nodded, sobbing quietly, and walked away. When the aisle finally cleared, I turned to Sarah. "You okay?" She took a deep breath. "Yeah, actually, I think I am." But that night as we drove home, I couldn't shake it. The helplessness, the anger. I kept replaying it in my head, wondering if I'd done the right thing. If maybe I'd gone too far. At one point I even asked, "Maybe I embarrassed you, huh?" Sarah turned to me, her eyes soft. "No, Marcus. You stood up for me when I couldn't. But maybe she needed someone to stand up to her too." I didn't understand it then, but I would soon. A month later the phone rang. "Mr. Mitchell," a woman's voice said. "This is Patricia Morrison." I almost hung up. But her tone stopped me. It wasn't arrogant anymore. It was shaky, humble. "I got your number from the hospital," she said. Sarah gave me her card. "I just wanted to thank you both. What happened that day, it changed everything for me and my husband." Turns out Patricia had gone home that night, told her husband everything. They'd cried, talked, started healing. She even started a support group for families dealing with disability. And she wanted Sarah to come speak at it. When I told Sarah, she smiled. "Guess I'm going back to work, huh?" The night of the meeting, the community center was packed. People in wheelchairs, veterans, stroke survivors, families holding hands. Sarah rolled up to the front. I stood beside her, just like always. She started speaking, voice steady but full of emotion. 2 years ago, I fell down a flight of stairs. Overnight, I went from being a nurse who happened to be married to a Navy SEAL to being a disabled woman who happened to be married to a Navy SEAL. But I realized something: the only person who gets to define me is me. You could hear a pin drop. She told them about that day at the grocery store, about the cruelty, the humiliation, and how she chose compassion instead of revenge. "We can't control how people see us," she said, "but we can control how we see ourselves. And when we start seeing ourselves as whole, the world catches up." When it was my turn, I looked out at the crowd, faces full of pain, hope, fear, courage. "I've fought in wars," I said, "but the bravest thing I've ever seen was my wife choosing kindness when she could have chosen hate." The applause was thunderous. I turned to Sarah and she smiled, that smile, the one that could melt steel. After the meeting, Patricia came up to me. "You could have destroyed me that day," she said quietly. "You had the training, the anger, the power, but you didn't. You taught me what real strength looks like." I shook my head. "Sarah taught me that. I just followed her lead." Later, driving home, Sarah looked out the window. "You know what's funny?" she said softly. "I used to think my accident was the worst thing that ever happened to me. Now, I think it might have been the best." I looked at her confused. "Before I helped kids in hospitals, Now I help people rebuild their lives. I used to treat injuries, now I treat hearts. Maybe this is what I was meant to do all along. I didn't say anything. I just reached for her hand, because she was right. That day at the grocery store didn't just expose one cruel woman. It reminded us both what true courage looks like. Not the kind that fights wars overseas, but the kind that faces judgment, pity, and fear right here at home, and still chooses love. And if you ask me what I learned from all this, it's simple. Real strength isn't about standing tall, it's about standing firm for what's right, even when you're sitting down.